Hello and welcome to the Saorsa Podcast. Today on the show, I have Prabhat Jammalamadaka. Prabhat is the student body president, the ASI president of Cal Poly Pomona. He's serving the role like I am for Chico. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Prabhat Jammalamadaka, as Duncan said. I am a third-year political science major with a minor in economics, and I am the current CPP president right now, ASI president. And honestly, it's been a year, but we'll get to that in a bit.
So I know we've had some conversations in the past through like CSSA and just catching up to president. Interestingly enough, we both kind of have a background where we weren't super involved or engaged or interested in high school, but then obviously we both came to be rather successful in college. So how did you make that transition in college to be going from high school being a disinterested student to now ASI president?
Yeah, I can get started with that real quick. So in high school, I basically did not care as much. I literally was just like, is college really worth it? Is going to the next level a real viability of an option? And I was just sitting there and honestly just thinking of why not. There's a year where I was thinking about dropping out of high school because honestly I just didn't feel like I was getting the best out of it. And on top of that, I was being pressured by my mom and dad because they have a very college oriented background. They were more like, you need to go to college, you're going to bring some badness or community and whatnot, you need to go to college and whatnot. So I had that pressure behind me. So basically, my grades were low. Didn't care much about high school. I think I graduated with a 2.6 GPA. Didn't care much about it. And then I was surrounded by people who were just very competitive. I just did not like that atmosphere. I'm from the Bay Area. So honestly, just being there, it was like either you excel or everyone just looks at you bad, you know? And then since I was already a black sheep technically in my eyes, I was like, so what? But then I got to my AP Gov class in high school and I was like, holy cow, this is really awesome stuff. I actually started enjoying politics. The teacher was awesome. And I was like, maybe political science is for me. Maybe I could go to college for political science. My dad, of course, was like, no, you have to go to STEM field because it's very like ingrained in immigrant culture. Yeah. But then my mom was very supportive. So then I decided to become a political science major at Cal Poly Pomona because I wanted to be away from the toxic Bay Area culture at that point in time. So I came down to
was it just you had more passion for the education and that's led to your success in college? What was the big like wake up?
It was something I was interested in. For example, I hate math. Math with a passion. If I understand how to do a certain thing in math, I enjoy it. But if I don't and don't want to put the time into it, it's not my cup of tea, you know? And then the thing is like, I hated to read and write, but that changed when I became a political science major. But honestly, most of the things I did in high school, I hated. With the exception of sports medicine, because that was something I actually kind of enjoyed doing. I came into college thinking I'm going to fail here too, you know, with that mentality, because I'm like, I did the same in high school. However, it was subjects I loved to learn. So instantly I was like, from a 2.6 GPA student, now I'm a 3.91 GPA student in college. So it was a complete turnaround. Even my parents were shocked about it. Yeah.
So you sort of mentioned in there, and this wasn't a question I had prepared, but you mentioned that you felt like a black sheep in high school. Do you want to expand on that?
So basically the thing is that culturally, there were a lot of Asians and Indian Americans in my high school. And with that comes pressure to be the best. So everyone is trying to be the best no matter what. We got people in like coming in freshman year of high school who are in like a third level math that they're not even geometry, they're in like calculus already. And with that, your parents are always going to be like, why can't you be like him? Why can't you be like her? You know? And with that mentality, I'm literally like, why do I need to be like somebody else? This is BS. So I basically at that point in time, I just dropped even thinking about being the best. However, the thing is like, I found the things that I am the best in high school. For example, I'm a good public speaker. I'm a good communicator. I really like doing leadership stuff and I like politics. So that's what came out of my high school career. But at the same time, I just really wanted to leave that toxic environment of always competing to be the best. Especially one of the things is that during senior year, when we're all getting our college acceptances and everyone is like, oh, look at me, I got into this UC or I got into this Ivy League. I didn't want to share what college I got into because I felt like it wasn't worthy enough. But however, Cal Poly Pomona is a premier institution now. Yeah. And I regret not being proud of it when I was first got into it. Because a lot of my friends right now are like, I wish I went to CSU instead of going to this high-powered competitive UC or Ivy League field. And I'm like, you should have thought better. Not everything about life is competition, you know?
But interestingly, my top choice was Pomona. I wanted to do aerospace engineering.
Hmm.
but I didn't get in. And so I went to Chico instead, and I did economics, and because they didn't have an aerospace engineering, and I didn't want to do mechanical because that's what my sisters were doing.
Yeah,
So
definitely. For me, it's just like I wanted to be away from my family. I love them, but the thing is like I wanted in-state tuition and I wanted to be far away. So the best thing was from the Bay Area, 6 hours away, Cal Poly Pomona. So
yeah.
that's why I chose the school. Yeah.
I noticed kind of when I was reviewing your background, you did a Model UN last year.
Yes,
Yeah, I've been doing Model UN this past year, last semester and this semester as
mhm.
well. What was your experience with that? And then what were some of the biggest lessons?
So I decided to do Mal UN because a friend of mine was really into it, and she was like, "You should try this out." And for me, it's like I want to try everything at least once in a
Yeah.
college to just get my grasp on it. So I joined Mal UN, loved it for that year. I was part of General Assembly 2, I think, at that point in time, and I was doing work. It was literally taught me how to do concise writing. It taught me how to negotiate, and it taught me how to do better teamwork. Because honestly, it's like a teamwork effort with you and your delegate working on a paper, right? Position paper.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I saw it as a learning experience and a great experience, but I saw it as not something I would want to continue. I love it, but at the same time, I had other stuff that I wanted to do, try out. For example, being president this year, I could not do Mall UN and be president.
Yeah.
It is literally almost, I'm already dying right now with my schedule. Adding that on top, like a late nights working on papers, was not the
Yeah.
best option.
Right on. And what was your country? You said GA2.
We were Malta. I think we had to do a lot with island nations and developing nations and stuff like that. And honestly, Malta agrees with most people. So it is a lot more compromise rather than arguing saying we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that.
One of your other kind of extracurricular outside the classroom
Mhm.
experiences in college has been sitting as a peer reviewer for the Political Science Undergraduate Journal, which is an academic journal. What
Yeah.
lessons have you taken from that? And then, yeah, I'll leave it at that. What lessons have you taken from that?
The main thing is Cal Poly Pomona political science students, man, they have brains that are so big. I am literally sitting here and I'm like, these research topics are literally the best. They're research topics I would love to read about. For example, the thing that I'm emphasizing in mostly right now in political science is comparative government. I'm just comparing governments together, but most people actually like the international relations side to political science or the American government side to political science. So reading those papers actually gives me a better worldview of my research going in the future. Basically, doing my senior thesis now, I'm doing a subject topic on it, and I'm actually utilizing a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing here in these papers, and basically trying to find my own writing style about how I'm going to write a research paper. And on top of that, editing. I used to suck at editing. Now I would like to call myself a rock star at editing because honestly, that has taught me a lot.
So you mentioned, and you kind of alluded to this before, in high school, the first class you actually like cared about was your government class, your AP government class. So what led you to having a passion for politics, and where has that led you beyond just being successful in college?
Definitely. The teacher I have, shout out Mr. Wen, back then, was very passionate about one part of politics, and that was the Supreme Court. He used to always be like, this is the best branch of the United States government. It is honestly, we need this for checks and balances. He used to rave about it through and through. And I used to be like, Supreme Court, they're just old people sitting down and making, like literally reviewing stuff. But then over time, I learned that's not what the Supreme Court does, of course. But seeing him that interested in a specific topic within a larger topic, I don't need to worry about the broadness. I can narrow into something that I really like. And then for me, that narrowing down was comparative government. And then one of the things that I love, especially, is comparing Supreme Courts of the world together against each other, because we're one of the only countries with a Supreme Court like ours. It's a court that actually, it has its flaws, of course, but it's a court that actually is made for the American people in a sense. I really enjoyed that. And on top of that, it's just like that teacher made sure that he checked up on me. He made sure I graduated on time. He made sure I had all my credits done. He was my number one cheerleader, along with other teachers. Without him, I don't think I would have graduated in high school, straight up. So that's why I wanted to go into politics, to be like someone like him.
Politics is kind of a broad thing. It can be like, like you mentioned, like government and Supreme Court, but it can also be like as a student leader. And this kind of goes back to what you mentioned about Model UN, kind of those negotiations and working closely with people, building relationships and all of that. So what does politics mean to you, and which parts of it do you enjoy from your experiences in student leadership?
Yeah, there are two definitions of politics. One I would like to say is the book definition, right? Which is like the study of allocating resources. That's what politics is. My way of saying what politics is literally giving the tools necessary for future generations to become leaders. And especially it's been a big part of my life, especially as a student leader, and having my mentors before me giving me the tools to succeed. So I look at it as a way of using what we have, our tools in our arsenal, to better the world around us. I'm trying to do that a step at a time by being a student leader, and hopefully I'm going to be doing that till the day I have my last breath. But that's basically what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life.
You just alluded to it. Where did you start in your student leadership journey? Was that in high school? Did you not start until college? And then, walk us through that.
Yeah, so I started, I was elected ASB president in high school. That's where it all started. ASB is not like ASI. It is very minute. It's basically event planning for rallies and things. Okay, so it's not much politics involved there, but it's some leadership that is there. I honestly did not expect to come this far in my journey. I thought that I was just going to get my degree and leave. That was basically what I was thinking about. Freshman year, I remember looking at a flyer on my wall in the living residence halls, and on the bulletin board it said apply to be a residence hall senator. And I was like, oh, this sounds cool. So I applied for it, got interviewed, and got the job to be my residence hall senator. So I sat at meetings, basically went over stuff that we need to do for residence halls, what they need, what events to plan to get more student engagement and whatnot. And I really, really enjoyed it. With that, I sat on a council, which is inter hall council, as a senator, and the council actually is one of the councils that ASI serves, one of 12 at CPP. So then I was told that I should run for the ASI IHC senator, which was a housing senator at that time. So I won my election. I ran unopposed that time because not a lot of people knew what the housing senator was, and I had the experience. So I ran and won unopposed, but then COVID hit. And I was back in the Bay Area representing housing students at Cal Poly.
That all of those students living on campus. Yeah.
Exactly. That did not make sense to me, right? For me, it's like, why is there a person in a position of power, far away from his constituency, right? Not doing his job. Because everybody else had it easier.
Sorry, were you just talking about Congress there?
No. But yeah, honestly, I was just sitting there and I was really like, am I doing the best job I am for my constituency? You know, I was actually contemplating about resigning because honestly, I was not with my constituency. But then my advisor basically told me I could still do a good job. And I did. I did my best. I attended all the council meetings. I tried to support the people still living on campus, which were usually foster youth and athletes who were living on campus because they didn't have anywhere to go to during seasons for athletes, and foster youth didn't have a place to go back home. So I had to find a way to support them. And I did that. I tried doing that. I tried expanding a meal swipe program where you can donate meal swipes so people can have food. I tried basically doing a lot of things at that time, point in time. And I also was put on many committees where I actually learned the background of how ASI works and the university works. And then finally, this year, third year, I actually wanted to run for another senator position and actually run for pro tem this year. So I just wanted to be the president of the Senate instead of being the president of the university. However, I was the only one returning from the previous year. So I was literally like, people were telling me I have the experience to run. I can actually make sure that there's a continuance of government. So why not run? I thought about it. I picked Derek as my VP. Derek is an awesome guy. Derek Sween, by the way, shout out to him. Picked him as my VP. We ran against another ticket. We won. And yeah, that's where I'm here right now as president of Cal Poly Pomona. I think I'm one of 3 third-year presidents in the CSU system right now. So that's a big accomplishment.
You ran. You were one of the few that returned. What was the biggest challenge through that the campaigning process? Was it very competitive, or because of COVID, was it?
There was a competitor, but it wasn't as competitive as you would think it was because mostly because of COVID, we only had a low voter turnout. Voter turnout was not that great. And on top of that, we didn't have to advertise as much because it's all virtual. So I just got as many endorsements as I can from councils, especially councils I served on. It would have been we would have tried harder if they were like in person, there were more candidates. But honestly, it wasn't that many. I think even you can attest to that. Elections were pretty bad at Chico too, with voter turnout or something like that.
Voter turnout was less than a normal year.
Yeah.
But it was still pretty competitive.
You guys had a competitive ticket stand. We just honestly did not have a variety of candidates. That was one thing, and then we just did not have people show up to the polls. So as a political science major, that kind of ticks me off. But it is what it is. We're working on it better at next year.
You mentioned you're one of like the few returning leaders. What has been the biggest challenge in bringing your fellow officers on board and supporting them in their priorities?
Yeah, I was actually the only returning leader from the elected portion, and I actually appointed previous leaders from the previous administration to my cabinet. But honestly, it's been a challenge. It's working with new people who do not know at the beginning, did not know how the organization functioned. Of course, that's going to be the case scenario with any new leader, but there's a lot of hand holding and like guiding leaders to like learn the ins and outs. And at the same time, it was also a good experience because we actually got a new turnover of new leaders. It's like new voices being heard. We're getting so many new people interested in student government who never were part of student government. There's pros and cons to it, of course, but it's honestly been a really great year. We got so much work done this year just because of that, because we got so much new input of voices, not much burnout, because these guys were so passionate about what they want to do this year.
At Chico, we don't really have a cabinet. Everyone is elected to their individual spot. So explain to me how actual like governance is structured and what are those cabinet positions?
Oh, definitely. I love talking about this. So we have a board of directors that basically oversees all of the financial and everything that the organization does as a whole. These are all elected members. And there are about 8 senators, and there are senators for each of our colleges, and 4 at-large senators that sit on at-large councils, which are SIC student interest, MCC multicultural, IHC, the one I served on last year, which is housing, and then Greek, which is Greek council. That's for the Greek life on campus. So they're the voting members. They're elected. They vote on board of directors matters, along with the president and VP. We also sit on the board of directors. However, at the same time, we need a think tank to actually formulate our action plan and agenda. So the president has a cabinet. I open up applications at the beginning of the year and interview people for cabinet positions. And these cabinet positions are attorney general, treasurer, and which sit on executive cabinet with me and the vice president, and the senator pro temp, which is elected with all the senators. They'll elect one representative to sit on cabinet, and that's a senator pro temp. This year is our SACE senator. We have secretaries. We've got Secretary of Basic Needs, because that's a very important area for us, and Secretary of External Affairs. So they deal with anything governmental affairs related. That's their purview, and they chair committees. And then we got Officer of Technology, Officer of Academic Affairs, Officer of Sustainability and Transportation, Diversity and Inclusion, and Transfer Engagement, a few more officers.
You appoint all of these positions?
I appoint all of them.
Except for the senator.
Except for the senator pro temp and the vice president, because they run on the ticket with me. So I basically appoint them, then the board of directors votes on the appointments and basically confirms or denies those appointments. That's pretty much it. That's how our government works overall.
Okay. Yeah, that's much different than ours, because ours, everyone is elected. And then if we have to fill one of those positions, we have to go through an application process and hire it, almost like a job interview. You mentioned there's an attorney general. I have to ask, because that's student government. I wouldn't imagine there's too many court cases or
So the attorney general is actually in charge of a rules and policy committee. So she this year goes over resolutions that we want to pass. She goes over the bylaws, which I think we finally got through like editing. So we're going to bring that to the board of directors soon. She goes over any codes, like committee codes and whatnot. That's her purview. She's a parliamentarian of student government. And if, let's just say, there is a recall or an initiative or impeachment or something like that along those lines, she also takes charge of that as well as reviewing council bylaws. So she's in charge of a lot of the technical aspects of stuff. So it's something that I also like doing, but I cannot do that as a full-time job. So that's all her.
Yeah. Very cool. I feel like your student government is a lot more executive than we have it structured here at Chico. We have, I think, 17 officers. We have 4 main committees. We have a much bigger like business arm with our ASI. And so we have 2 that are kind of business oversight. So obviously president, executive vice president. People can run as a ticket, but they're separate elections. And then there's 2 vice president positions, vice president of business and finance, and then facilities and services, and they each have their own committees.
That's actually pretty cool. So our pro tem actually is in charge of our facilities and operations committee. So she's in charge of all the ASI owned buildings, like our union and our gym. And then she also oversees a bit of the children's centers too, as well. Our treasurer is in charge of the finance committee. So anything dealing with that, and they have a joint budget committee towards budget season where they come together to decide how much money is going to go to separate sections and recommend it to the board of directors. Yeah, our board of directors is chaired by our vice president. I chair only cabinet, which are closed meetings because we're just dealing with background information. Board of directors is public, and I also chair our human resource committee. But there are only 2 committees I chair. And yeah, I also created 3 ad hoc committees this year. I created one for sustainability, one for diversity funding guidelines, and one for lifetime membership, which is an award we want to give to a select few for ASI. So I created those ad hoc committees this year as well. So we have a total of governmental affairs, finance, facilities and operations, basic needs, board of directors, cabinet, and the 3 ad hocs and joint. So about 10 committees, I think.
I know in your time you've allocated several $1 million in student fees through budget committees or this year in your current position. What are your biggest stories of impact?
As last year as a senator, we allocated $3 million of student fees to basic needs. Basically, with COVID, we couldn't give back the student fees, right? Because it was going to be like, if we did that, all the other schools would have gotten up in an uproar saying that we can't give back money too because it's a CSP thing. And there's also lawsuits going on at the time.
Yeah.
So we decided to use the student fees. They're not being used for anything and decided to allocate them for basic needs. For example, menstrual products in all of our bathrooms, expand our poly pantry a bit more, give more funding to our clothes closet, get hotspots and computers for our students, and like a variety of other stuff. So we allocated money to the clothes closet, the Basic Needs Initiative program for the university, and basically gave back the student dollars to the students through these programs.
Indirectly, yeah.
Indirectly, yeah. And then we basically were one of the first schools to actually implement menstrual products in all the bathrooms. And then right after we did that, a couple months later, Newsom signed the bill saying that all K-12 education in public universities should have menstrual products in the bathroom. Another impact is keeping the BRIC open and the BSC open, which is our Bronco Student Union and our gym, because our students really love these places, and just trying to hire a lot more students because ASI is the #1 student employee hirer in school in the university. So hiring the students, giving them those opportunities to thrive and work, at the same time giving these amenities such as BRIC and the BSc, keeping it open. Because of COVID, we actually extended BRIC membership to any graduating senior or anyone who's missed a semester. So they could come back and use that for a semester too, because we want to make sure that they got the best out of the money they put in.
Here's a case study in comparative politics. What is the biggest difference between the average ASB and an ASI, for those who don't know?
Millions of dollars. Millions of dollars in endowment. I think that's one. And number 2, the amount of administrators we need to talk to and the amount of bureaucracy we need to go through. In ASB, you could be like, let's have an event. And the teacher will just say no or yes. Here, you're like, hey, let's get the student this right or need or something like this. For example, get more counselors here or there. We'll have about 7 roadblocks. It'll be about 4 years until something gets done. That's basically what it is.
Yeah. And what is the ASI budget, just for example? I mean, millions or?
It's in millions. I think right now we are sitting on $40 million.
Is that revenue?
It's revenue, reserves, investments, everything right now.
Sure.
I have never thought I would be signing up to actually be a part of a board of directors for a 501c3 nonprofit of $40 million.
Yeah.
Never in my life. I can write down my resume and basically be like, I was a board of director member for a year deciding budget stuff. You know how insane that sounds like?
I know you have a political science. That's your area of study. And also, by purview of our position, we have the privilege of being a part of California State Student Association, which is the officially recognized body that represents student voices for CSU students, which about 500,000 students. So my question for you is, what are some examples of lobbying efforts that you worked on at your university, and how did that go?
So we had CSU Advocacy Day. I think you were part of this too a couple days ago. We talked to our representatives, local representatives, about why investment in CSUs are very important. For example, one thing we talked about was compensation for faculty. Better faculty in California ensures that there's a better education, better competitive rates and everything like that, and they can live in California because California is a very hard place to live in. And number 2, basic needs and mental health. Those are big parts, right? So I'm always going to be an advocate, as I said, till the day I die, on basic needs and mental health, because I believe in equity for all. And I also believe that with COVID, we've seen mental health kind of get worse. And now we've actually seen the cracks in the foundation, because everyone knew these problems existed, but kind of just tossed it away. But the pandemic highlighted everything. And as you know, you're seeing this in your own university as well. And then, of course, most of our colleges are old buildings. San Jose State was literally built in the late 1800s. Okay.
Yeah, Chico's well.
Yeah, Chico's well. And it's like, for us, we were a ranch. Kellogg actually owned us, the guy who made the cornflakes. So we became a school officially, I think, in the 30s or 60s. I'm not sure about that. But with that, we have old buildings, right? But not as old as Chico or San Jose State, but we have old buildings. But at the same time, we're an agriculture school. So we're like in the middle of nowhere. So our buildings are kind of falling apart because of that. So we're trying to get money for that as well. Because the thing is, like, if your school looks better, more students want to join your school. You look at the school and like, oh my God, the school looks awesome. For example, Chico's, the road that goes through Chico State, everyone knows that iconic road. It's like
Yeah.
that school looks amazing. We're known for our CLA building, which is a long, tall, pointy building, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's like, we want to come for that building. That's why we need to invest in that as well, because we have to invest in, because these buildings can't handle the technological advancements that are coming right now. We can't put high flex or stuff in these buildings. You know what I mean? So it's like we need to talk about that. And of course, I will always lobby for transfer students. The chancellor's office actually issued a verification eligibility requirement saying that transfer students cannot be student leaders their first semester. That is not fair because they've had a host of experience coming into college and they could actually utilize that to be good student leaders. So that's what I'm going to be advocating for when it comes to statewide level, to get that order rescinded and to actually have transfer students be in student government as possible, so they can want to be involved throughout college and not just be like, no one cares about me, why should I be here? So that's basically all the things that I really love. And of course, again, student parents. There are a growing demographic in the CSU, especially Cal Poly Pomona, making sure that our poly pantry, the food pantry we have, has formula or baby diapers. That's a bare minimum. What more can we do for them to get them the better education they need and their kids to get a education they need as well?
Obviously, the CSU is 23 universities. Since it's funded by the state, it is at least politically impacted system, and then very also much. we're affected by the larger trends in demographics, in the political situation in the United States, when it comes to like migration between states or financial support. So my question for you is, what are some of the biggest issues in the CSU? What are some solutions that you've considered, even if you haven't thought them through all the way?
Accountability. For example, you heard recently with the Fresno president and what happened there with the sexual harassment claims not being taken care of or investigated properly at Fresno State. Having a person of power in the chancellor's seat right now who has done that and honestly not has been vetted properly shows me that it's very political when becoming the chancellor of the CSU system. What we are very harsh on with students when it comes to sexual harassment and everything like that, why can't we do the same thing with our admin? So that's basically what I'm looking at, this accountability wise. That's one. Number two, bureaucracy. Everything takes so slow to get stuff done. Stuff's done. And number three is like the distance between the board of trustees and the campuses. They're friends and everything with their presidents, but they don't know what the students are going to. They went to college a couple of decades back. They don't know what's happening now. Honestly, there's a disconnect there. And thank God we have student trustees sitting on there. But at the same time, I'm like, they look like they're sitting on Olympus.
What are some of your projects that are in the works for this semester? I know you said you noted some successes from last year and last semester.
I think most presidents are doing this in the CSU system, is trying to get a better way to connect with our admin. They would love to come to us when they need something. But when we want to be in the loop, like for example, our virtual transition and we were not informed, we're always stuck in the deep end. We're always the last ones to find out. And we're the first ones students come and ask questions. And we're the last ones to find out. That's one. Number two is I actually think that I want to create a Southern CSU coalition right now, where I want to create like a plenary type of deal, like CSA, but not as much, but it's a little bit less formal, where the 10 CSUs in Southern California meet with each other and discuss what's happening with COVID guidelines, with what's happening everywhere. And I want to continue that going into the future too. It's very important now, especially because back in the day, I feel like each CSU was by itself and basically only worried about what's happening within its borders. But now I feel like we need to expand more and worry about what's happening as a system as a whole. We're all impacted by the same issues. We just need to come together to brainstorm about it. The Southern Coalition is going to be great because we're going to be talking about issues that are plaguing LA County, San Bernardino County, and everything like that. Maybe we might spark some interest for the regions in California, like the northern regions and the middle region with basically only 3 universities, but still having them have conferences, because CSA is a great place to have discussions, but it's more of a lobbying mechanism, in my opinion, rather than having a sit down conversation with presidents about what's happening with you. So those are my 2 main goals I'm working on this year. My cabinet's doing a great job right now. What my sustainability and transport officer is working on getting alternative transportation modes on campus. Our basic needs, working on getting diverse counselors into our mental health facilities. But I'm very excited for this semester, and I'm very excited for whatever president comes after me to carry on the legacy that is left by our administration this year.
I know for all of us in these positions of student leadership, we face various barriers, be it admin, financing, getting enough people on board, how temporary our positions are. What are some of the biggest barriers that you've overcome in your role, and how did you go about overcoming them?
Yeah, real quick, before I tell you what barriers I overcame, I'm going to give you the biggest barrier of them all. The 9 months we are as president.
Yep.
That's the biggest barrier, because students expect us to do the work of like 16 presidents in 1 year. That is highly, 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 highly impossible. Because the reason being is that, one, we have school to worry about first. We're students first. Number two, we got admin always telling us no, 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 no. And number three, everything you do right, people will not acknowledge. Everything you do wrong, people will be the first people to come out and say you're doing something wrong. That just is what it is. It comes with the territory.
Yeah.
But the biggest barrier I think I overcame is honestly getting rid of in people's minds that ASI is a popularity contest. That only popular people make it into ASI. Because for the past few years, our ASI presidents have been part of Greek life. They've always been part of Greek life. I am the first president in recent years who's not a Greek life member. So I would like to take it as a grain of salt, saying that it's not a popularity contest this year. I'm actually getting work done. I'm not saying the previous presidents didn't get work done, but I'm actually getting a lot of work done this year. And on top of that, communicating with students. We have done a better job communicating with students this year than I think ever. And the amount of awesome projects we're bringing up, like trying to put solar panels on our facilities, get a partnership with the library about textbooks, I have not seen coming. As a senator, I would not have expected this to happen. We got admin who are willing for change to happen. We got admin who came in who are new admin who know exactly what's happening. And they're like, you know what, we're going to support you. We're going to talk to the president of the university about this. Those are all the obstacles I crossed. There's always going to be more that's going to come around the corner. Piece of advice to anyone listening: do not let the obstacles stop you and keep on going. Make those obstacles your steps to success. You just use them to build a bridge. Don't toss them aside, because this is what character building is all about. It helps you with character building, and it helps you make a better environment wherever you are.
What are some of the biggest lessons that you would give to your successor or any other ASI president to be successful in this role?
Read the transition folders. They're important. They tell you exactly what you've done, because the thing here is that we put a lot of work into these transition folders. They're a very important resource, and you can literally look back on many presidents' transition folders. It's an archive waiting for you to look through it. Utilize your resources. Your advisors are your number one supporters most of the time, so always go to them for help if you need anything. Do not think that it's all up to you to decide what needs to be done. You're in a team. You need to listen to your cabinet members. You need to listen to your appointed leaders, because these guys are on the ground more than you are as president. Because president, you're more talking to admin than actually talking to students. That is a sad reality of it. So these guys who are on the ground working with their constituencies will tell you exactly what's going on. And you should listen to them and actually work on it. Work with them, because that boosts their confidence, makes them strong leaders, and in turn, maybe they want to run for president next year because of the help that the president offered them. So it's all about survival of the organization. And at the same time, it's all about building future leaders, right? And utilizing resources. Because without any of these, you're pretty much a lame duck president. You're not doing much.
For those who don't know, being lame duck is there is no following term. For example, Obama in his last 4 years was a lame duck president. There's no more after that, or especially after the midterms. So on that note of lame duck, what's next for you? I know you have a couple more semesters. Are you going to run for another position? Are you going to step back? And then what's when you graduate, what's next?
So the thing I'm going to do is I have one more semester left at Cal Poly Pomona. So I'm not going to run for a second term, even though a lot of people want me to. It's just not my list right now. But I'm more than willing to be an advisor to the next president. So I will be there no matter what the president needs. Phone call or email, I'll be there to help them out because I'm on campus. Honestly, I think it's just working on myself at that point in time, working on furthering my career and ambitions and whatnot. And at the same time, I don't want to run for a second term because I feel like it's time for another person to take up the reins. I have loved every minute of it, even though I'm stressed most of the time. But my time is kind of coming to an end as ASI president.
And so post-graduation, do you have plans? Do you have semblance of plans?
Yeah, my plan for graduation is going to be, drumroll, law school. That's my hope. Hopefully the East Coast. But I also might take a gap here and try to work in DC for a bit. After law school, we'll see where the road takes us. because there are many paths to choose, and we'll know right after law school.
Right on. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time today. Do you have any closing remarks, closing comments, places where people can find you, or?
Yeah, again, thank you for having me on the podcast.
Of course.
You can find me on Instagram at Prabhat_Jammalamadaka. Duncan is going to pop that up somewhere. And then you can find me there. If you have any questions regarding my ASI at CPP or your student at CPP watching this podcast and want to get in touch with me, you can contact me at ASI president at cpp.edu. Always come with questions and whatnot. I love answering questions, so feel free and whatnot. And if anything else is needed, those are the two best platforms you can find me on. And yeah, you might also see me wandering the halls of CPP for the next 2 semesters. So I'll say hi to you if I see you there.
Again, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Please consider following, subscribing, or whatnot. It's really appreciated, and it means a lot to the show. Helps get the word out more, and more people find the podcast. So